Hey everybody, Lawrence here with Dirty Basement Terrain. In this episode, we're going to be making lava pit trap tiles. Now, a comment on my very first video, the acid pit trap tiles, of cool crafting, I really need a Hotwire cutter. Okay, now, I make extensive use of the Proxon, as you've seen in my other videos, but with these, I wanted to show that you absolutely do not have to have a Hotwire cutter for tiles like this. It's completely doable, and they can turn out looking really great. As always, this is how I make it. You don't necessarily have to follow exactly, but I'm just showing you how I make these.
This is pretty simple. I'm just taking a piece of graphics medium chipboard, and I'm going to be measuring out 3" by 3" squares because these tiles are going to be 3" by 3 inches. Now that I've got everything measured out, I'm grabbing my old knife and then just following along the lines that I marked. Taking my time because I'm not using a guide ruler this time around. If you need to use one, don't worry about using one. Go ahead and use it. But make multiple passes so you can get a good clean cut if need be. And just cut and cut and cut until you get to your 3" squares. And of course here I'm grabbing a piece of foam core, more specifically Ready Board foam core from the Dollar Tree because of the easy peel paper. And right now I just want to square up the foam part because this is just like a piece that I've cut chunks off of and it's not square. So using my T-square, getting a couple straight lines, and I'm just, like I said, getting ready to square it up. And I'm cutting through the foam and not through the paper, but the second sheet of paper because it helps in the process. So I'm doing light cuts, not really heavy. And here I'm just going to be measuring out 3" by 3" squares, the same as I did with the chipboard in the previous step. And now that I've got it all marked out, I'm going to grab my Wolf knife and just give some light cuts to cut through the foam and not the paper below it itself. This kind of helps. For me personally, it just helps having the foam still attached to the paper even though it's cut through. It's easier for me personally. And now I just start peeling it all off. And here I'm just grabbing a smooth roller to try and make the foam core itself a little bit thinner. It's a little too thick for my taste, so like I said, I just want to, using a smooth roller, thin it out somewhat this way by applying a decent amount of pressure. And it does kind of work, so I'm going to do that to all the pieces that I'm going to be using. As you can see, I've already glued the chipboard to the foam. I lost the footage of me doing that, but you know how that works. So I'm just using some flame right here to melt the foam in strategic places. I just want to try and make the center here a little bit thinner because I'm trying to create like a pool almost. So melting helps. And here I'm just carving out, trying to follow along the melt pattern I gave in the previous step, just to give it like a lip, or almost, I don't know how to describe it, but I'm just basically trying to create a pool almost. And here I'm just gluing on. I'm using some standard PVA Aleene's tacky glue to glue on the little lips that I made onto the previous pieces. As you can see, I've already done 2, and I'm just working on the 3rd here. And of course here I'm just showing the pieces are all glued together, and with the rolling it did thin them out. Right now I just want to try and smooth out the sharp edges from the second piece that I glued on to give it a more smooth transition from one piece to the other. There are other ways you can... Oh, crap! My lighter died. Oh well, I always keep an extra one. But yeah, now the edges are smoother. Of course, with rolling the foam like we did, it did create some really thin edges which don't match up really flat together, and it's created a very noticeable gap that, while in the grand scheme of things it's not going to be seen during gameplay, I personally just want to fill it in because I know it's there. So I'm grabbing some of my homemade texture paste and I'm just filling in those gaps, and this will actually also help with the durability of the piece, to a degree at least. I'm just grabbing a coffee stirrer stick and then just kind of like spackling it, troweling it in. That's about the best way I can describe it. Like I said, all I'm doing is filling up the gap in between the 2 pieces. Of course, here at the next step, everybody's favorite, black Mod Podge. I just want to give 100% coverage to protect the foam, because the foam core foam is a little bit weaker than standard XPS. Of course, we've run into an issue that does happen occasionally. Well, it does happen with using graphics medium chipboard. I've developed a slight warp to the tiles. Like I said, this happens occasionally, but there is a fix to it, and it's a trick I've learned by watching Wylock over at Wylock's Armory. It's simple. You just paint the other side and give it a day to dry. I said I'm just grabbing my Mod Podge, slab it on, giving a decent coat to the other side, and I'm going to let it dry, and that should cure the warp. Like I said, you gotta wait a day, but it'll fix the warp. Okay, it's been a day and the warp is pretty much gone. A trick I learned from Wylock over at Wylock's Armory. Now I'm grabbing my half hemisphere sticker things that you can get at craft stores or wherever, and because I want to have bubbling, boiling lava, and these will help. And now I'm just using straight hot glue for the lava itself. Yes, it's clear, but don't worry, we'll be painting it. If you want to add texture, put it on. If you want your lava to have texture, just put your glue gun on low temp, and you can also use the tip of your glue gun to add extra texture. Well, here I'm just using some spray-on primer through my airbrush for the hot glue and the plastic hemisphere sticker things. I don't think the Mod Podge will stick as well to the hot glue as well as the spray-on primer, which is why I'm doing it. Of course, now I'm going to be painting on Apple Barrel's Jet Black. That doesn't matter, I'm just a black over all the stone or cooled lava areas. And now for a mid-tone on the stone area, I'm using Apple Barrel's Pavement. It's a very dark gray, almost like a slate gray. So I said for this game I'm going very dark for the cooled lava area because the lava's all but black. So And for my final highlight color, I'm using what I'm usually my go-to for my starting color, dark blue gray, which basically tells you how dark this scheme is going to wind up being. I said I'm just going for a light dry brush with a beat up makeup brush that I got at the Dollar Tree. Well, once the paint was dry, I just didn't like how dark it was. So I decided to go with one more shade lighter. And I grabbed the Apple Barrel Pewter Gray, which is my go-to mid-tone for stone. So just a really light dry brush to bring out some kind of highlights that I've done. No, there aren't many with this. Or, edges and whatnot. But the dark blue gray just was too dark even for me. So one shade lighter with the pewter gray. And here I'm going to be painting the area that's going to be containing lava a light gray, more specifically Apple Barrel's granite gray. It was within arm's reach when I needed a light gray, honestly. But this will make it better for when I start applying the colors for the lava. It'll make them show up better. And using the gray instead of white will make it easier. You won't have to do so many multiple coats just to get a solid base coat of it. Here I'm using Folk Arts Apple Red. I'm going to be watering it down a decent amount. And I want to get 100% coverage of all the gray areas, the light gray areas. Because this is basically a base coat here for the lava. But we are going to be bringing up with different colors to make it lighter or kind of like glow. Now for the second color, the orange, I'm using Apple Barrel's Harvest Orange. It's kind of a dull, slightly light orange. The first thing I'm doing is basically hitting the top bubbles, and then I'm going around the edges slightly away from the very edge because I want to leave a little bit of the red showing, and just painting in towards the center because I want to have like a gradient, if that makes any sense, towards the middle, as in the middle where it's getting hotter and it's supposed to be a lighter color. So the further to the center where all the heat is, it's going to get brighter. So I'm just bringing it in from the edge. And I'm also, if you notice, I've been painting around the base of the bubbles too. Because honestly, I don't know why, but I just think it looks cool. And here I'm going with the orange again. I'm working on more of a gradient fade color. And so, again, I'm working a little bit further into the edge and working towards the middle. And, of course, I'm hitting the bubbles again as before. Like I said, I'm just trying to bring more of the orange out and get a little bit more of a fade than I did in the previous step. And here I'm going over with the orange again. I'm just trying to bring up the orange a little bit more than what I did previously, hitting the bubbles, and then I'll be going around the bubbles themselves and then towards the edge. I'll be using this almost identical from the previous round of orange, but like I said, this is a second round of orange. And of course here I've moved on to Apple Barrel's bright yellow. And of course I've watered it down the same as the orange. And now I hit the tips of the bubbles. And instead of brushing it, I'm more doing a stippling technique. I'm not going for a straight up fade. I'm letting the stippling take care of that. It may look kind of splotchy, but I'm intentionally actually going for that. I want to have some like small little spots of like the orange showing through the yellow that I'm doing. So that's why I decided to go with the stippling instead of the straight up brushing on for more of a fade. I said I want a bit of randomness. That's why I went with the method I'm doing now. Of course, now I'm going for a second coat of the same color, again using the stippling technique. I still want to get that randomness. That's why I'm using the stippling. I don't want straight, smooth coverage. And again, hitting the tops of the bubbles, getting around the bubbles, and just going for a bit of chaos almost. Now I'm using some gloss Mod Podge to seal it in. I wanted to have a shine to the lava. Just, I don't know if it enhances the brightness or not, but I just wanted the lava itself to have a shine. And if you notice, I'm only placing this on the lava, not on the stone that surrounds it. And here they are amongst some dungeon tiles.
Hey everybody, if you made it this far, it means you watched it to the end, and as always, I really do appreciate that. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, click subscribe. If you want to leave a comment, leave it down in the comment section. And if you want to get a hold of me directly, come to the Discord page. There's a link to it in the About tab of the DBT page, so come check it out. There's lots of great crafters there. If you got questions, want to see me make something, that's where you want to go. Hope you enjoy, guys. And as always, when you're making your terrain, remember, the only person you got to worry about is you, because it's your terrain.